What's up, friends of the Striker Texas? The gang's all here. We had covered MLS all season from a largely Texan slant, and we can get into the performance of the Texan referee in the MLS Cup Final. But as we tie a bow, Chris Bills in front of the holiday decor there at Haymaker in Austin, as we tie a bow on this regular season, I'm going to talk a little bit about how it all went down, the final MLS Cup Final, the final match of the year. It ended up being a thrilling one, and as you can see from the title below, and you maybe watched yourself, New York City FC takes the trophy. They win a penalty shootout. It went the distance for the fifth time in MLS history. The game decided by a penalty shootout. It's New York City FC winning their first ever MLS Cup. The celebrations are going on in Portland on that away field, but in front of plenty of fans who traveled. Looked like a nearly 2,000 they were hoping. Looks like a fair amount of NYCFC supporters who are going to be having a heck of a night tonight in Portland before traveling back next week. Chris Bills, you saw from Haymaker in Austin, Victor Riza in Houston. What's up, guys? What do you think about this one? The Asians, they're champs.
A good atmosphere here at Haymaker. Always good to have Phil West by my side watching any MLS match. So that was fun. And the place erupted, kind of came to life when Portland obviously got the equalizer there. And, you know, I thought it was interesting and a lot of fun that, you know, you mentioned the ref. I think it was Armando Villarreal from San Antonio, kind of let them play, right? And I thought that was, you know, obviously evident. Maxime Chanot probably had a case there for a foul, but, you know, Portland gets the equalizer, and you know, then obviously in extra time, Sean Johnson comes up big. So just a really fun way to end the season. I thought extra time really gave us, you know, I think it would have been disappointing, certainly for Portland, but also for the neutrals. I think for Portland not to score at home. So that
true.
Kind of gave us some life, and you know, from there, I think you know we saw MLS chaos, which is what we expect from the playoffs.
Yeah, I remain an advocate for tied games going directly to penalty kicks. I think this was another example of extra time just being, if you want to call it a chess match, that's fine, but it was a pretty boring one. Victor, Chris mentions the potential foul in the buildup. Of course, the Felipe Mora goal, like for those of us who love chaos, for those of us who wanted to see an exciting game, it was great that we got this goal that ended up pumping up the drama. It goes to extra time. We get to see Providence Park celebrate. I think that Timbers got away with one there, Victor. Are you blowing the whistle there if you're the referee?
Yeah, no, I agree with you. I think, you know, ultimately the soccer gods do one right? And ultimately NYCFC come away with the cup. Otherwise, we'd have a lot of controversy here at the end. So it happened the way at the end, the team that should have won ended up winning, right? I think
I agree with that.
We all picked Portland, but I think part of that was because of the home field advantage. But once you see how the game started, how NYC started to control the match, I think I think they're the deserved winner.
I agree. I mean, you look at that first half, and I did kind of lean on home field advantage, although I was thinking about it today and thinking more and more about the NYCFC attack, how good Tati Castellanos has been all year, how good Maxi Morales has been all year. I had kind of talked myself out of the prediction I half tossed into the Slack, but I'll stick by it. I got it wrong. We all get it wrong. You know, the New York City FC attack clearly came to play, and they really, Chris, didn't look intimidated in the first half at all. They played their game. They were keeping the ball, and I think that they looked stronger than the Timbers for sure in the first 45 minutes. And even in the second half, it seemed like this was sort of NYCFC's game to lose.
Yeah, they certainly had things controlled, and then I think that, you know, home field advantage, I think does play a role, and obvious, and also I thought that you know, Portland, you know, really going after the game, making some offensive subs, and then having you know, Diego Chara and Jimmy Chara, you know, in the back. Diego Chara, I think, was the best player in this match. Would have been the man in the match for me if Portland had won. You know, obviously that's not the case, but I think, you know, being able to you know, put out fires while Portland was chasing and really, you know, kind of create a little bit of a, you know, a man advantage that eventually, you know, did knock the door down for Portland, and you know, got that equalizer, of course, with a little bit of help from Larry Mabiala, you know, kind of assaulting Maxime Chanot there on the goal line. But and my favorite moment of was between the extra times. Chanot was talking to the with the prop of the ice on the face, which I thought was a nice touch.
He was still going. Victor, we talked about the Timbers making changes in the second half, chasing the game. I think Gio Savarese is a really good manager. Maybe the sample size for Austin fans is not quite right to agree with that because Austin got the better of the Timbers, this year. But I think he's a really good manager. I think he's really talented. I feel like he got this one a little wrong. Chara, such a great player, and he could go the distance. But I thought he waited a really long time to make changes that could have been quite influential.
I agree. I'm in the same boat with you. I think his legacy is going to be, is he ever going to be able to win an MLS Cup, right? With Portland, he got to the final in his first year, and obviously they lost to Atlanta. But, you're at home. I think, again, we all predicted Portland to win, but why was that? Because, they've been dominant at home. Obviously, what that field means for Portland, I think having the team that they had, it just, everything looked like it should have been Portland's way. I guess if there was one team to know what it was like to kind of be fighting, playing against that, it was them for what they did in Columbus in 2015. But I think, from the beginning, you just saw Portland wasn't easy, right? The pressure of the final maybe got to them. They were never really able to control the game and go against NYCFC. And then in the end, to me, I think the biggest, and I may be wrong in this one, but to me, the biggest thing is if you have to go away from your best player and Sebastian Blanco is not able to continue the game, the only guy really that you have that's the similar identities is Diego Valeri. Why not go to sooner?
I think he waited too long. I find the move to put Moreno in, once Blanco wasn't able to go, but I thought that the match was really crying out, from the 75th minute on for another playmaker. Finally we saw Diego Valeri very late. It was in time. I thought he did make a difference the time he was on the pitch, and, even in extra time and having that extra playmaker on the pitch, as they were chasing and obviously earned the corner and got the equalizer through Mora. But it was it was puzzling to me that they kept showing Valeri, and it was like, when's he coming in?
Well, and I think Valeri, maybe he doesn't have the legs anymore, right? And I think Gio has a great feeling on that, a great vibe on that. But what I would say, is if you have Blanco and you say, look, he's going 60 minutes today, because they knew he wasn't going to be fully fit with the hamstring injury that he suffered. If you say he's going for an hour today, I think it's stronger if he goes for the second 45 minutes. If you come in at halftime down 1-0 like they did, you can say, all right, now we're going to change the game, and Blanco, you're going to go. Maybe you say, well, if we go to extra time, he's not going to have okay, bring him in the 60th minute then. I just think it would have been more effective to have him as a change. But you worry about that once
he gets extra time.
Right. I think that easy for me to say. I have no idea what the medical sheet was, what the trainer said. I'm sure Blanco said he wanted to go from minute one, but it's clear he was limited in some way. So to me, I'm not sure I start him. I don't have the information Gio had, but I don't think I start him.
Yeah, but you're at home, and I think the plan, and I think you have to go into it optimistically. I mean, the plan would have been to, for Sebastian Blanco to put in that hour shift and leave with a 1-0 or 2-0, leader or more. So, and if you don't start him and all of a sudden you're chasing a game, I suppose you'd rather have him in the game late. But
that's what happened.
That's how the match. That is how the match turned out. But that's a tough one for me to think that if Blanco's ready to go 60, why wouldn't you start him? Because you're not gonna. I don't think you're gonna sub him in. 30 minutes into the match, right?
That's what I'm saying. Is if you, sure. I would have gone the other way, but I see what you're saying about wanting to be optimistic. Let's stick with the Timbers a little bit because we are a Western Conference inclined show and have a Western Conference inclined. Obviously, we're going to be seeing more of the Eastern Conferences next year, and FC Dallas, NYCFC this year in a weird match that was at Red Bull Arena that the teams tied. I don't think that has much to do with them lifting the trophy, but Timbers, now you look and you say they're in the conference. We're going to be seeing these guys again. Valeri is likely on his way out. Doesn't have a contract signed for next year. there's a couple other players who were either not their future or sure that they're not going to be back. And a bit of an older team, to be honest, with Steve Clark in goal, Yala, the center back, as good as he was, and Diego Chara, as good as he was this year. He's 5, I believe. So when you guys look at the Timbers, Victor, starting with you, is this a team teams are going to have to beat to get back into a Western Conference Final MLS Cup situation? Are we going to see that? Because I think there's a lot of questions about their future.
Yeah, I think so, because I mean they've been in the title picture. It's been them in Seattle, and until somebody decides to do something about it, the Western Conference looks like it's still going to go through the Pacific Northwest. I mean, Seattle's been in this position too, right, where they get to the finals, and I mean just last year they got to the final, and then with a talented team, and they just weren't able to close a deal out in Columbus. So yeah, I think so, and they have committed owners, right, that put talent on the field, refresh the rosters, aren't afraid to part ways with the head coach if need be. So I think, yeah, of course, the Timbers are still going to be around the picture. How long is it going to take them to come back to an MLS Cup? I think that's the part to be seen. And the bigger thing is who in the Western Conference is going to have something to say about it, right?
Well,
Because
obviously,
at some
it's
point,
Austin
somebody else
FC,
has
Houston
to.
Dynamo, and FC Dallas, right?
Could
Well,
be.
I mean,
Don't count them out.
Austin FC, for Austin FC fans, the Timbers were the worst team in the league until until
Till they got to the
Until they
final.
weren't.
that showed that I think that Portland was on the right track toward the end. But certainly it's a bit of a changing of the guard. I think. I mean, one way is that Diego Valeri is out the door. I think it is definitely Sebastian Blanco's team right now. It's unfortunate that he wasn't fully healthy throughout the playoffs, but you look at Santiago Moreno, a good young player. My question mark is Steve Clark. I mean, you look at this team, and Steve Clark had some good years in Columbus. Obviously has had some good years in Portland, but he's getting older, like you said, John. And I didn't think he probably should have gotten to the first NYCFC goal.
Yeah,
and then
another error in an MLS Cup.
There was at least one penalty where he was there and
he dived over it. It was the Talles Magno one, I think, and he dived totally over it, and it was it was there for him. I think
about is like we wonder if maybe Claudio Reyna might be shopping Andrew Tarbell. Do you give Portland a call? See if there's anybody that you might be able to take off their hands, or I think there's a few teams around the league that might be looking that direction. So something to think about. I think there is going to be some moves that are going to be made by Portland after this one, I would think.
We got a couple potential movement situations here coming up. Obviously, the half-day trade window and the expansion draft. What is that? What kind of impact does that have on your team? FC Dallas could be active in the trade market. They haven't historically gone for other MLS players. And expansion draft, they basically have every single person protected because they're either able to put them on the protected list or they're homegrowns and they're automatically protected. I know it could have more impact on teams like the Dynamo, Victor. When you look at kind of what happened in the next few days, what are we looking at?
Yeah, I mean, I think we gotta kind of keep our ears open, right? I do think be ready for everything. I mean, it's not like, again, these teams are all bottom of the Western Conference, the Texas teams. I mean, I don't think they're above anywhere to be looking
You
for
can't
help.
run it
And
back.
I think if
Yeah.
yeah, and the only thing I would warn against is, because Houston's done it for years, is you can't just live off of some of these trades, right? You still have to go out, I think, and bring a bona fide player, from another league, or just a proven winner. But I do think there are complementary pieces you can find. I mean, hey, Diego Valeri, could he help any of the Texas teams? I mean, maybe.
Sure. Yeah, and I think from an Austin perspective, I do expect them to be active both in this half-day trade window. I would be surprised if they don't make some moves. I do think that the big thing for Austin is to get this center back positions line figured out. So I think that whether it's through a trade,
Austin needs help in defense.
Yeah.
When you look at why did NYCFC win MLS Cup? Yes, they had the Golden Boot winner, right? Castellanos, and that doesn't hurt anything. But
yeah,
Alexander Callens and Maxime Chanot, I think, are maybe the best pairs. I think they might be the best two center back, and I think that has an enormous reason you can win these playoffs. You finish the regular season number 4. lockdown, we need to win a couple games in a row when things are going right. And, I guess it's easy to fixate on Castellanos and the other guys who are scoring goals and doing things. But that center back pairing has to be rocked. And look, even FC Dallas, which has a good core of, 3 center backs that I think fans would be comfortable seeing on it didn't really go right this year. And so I think there are question marks there too. So that's a great shout, Chris, that maybe Austin FC might be their back.
I think it was fitting that Cayens had the winning penalty as well. And honestly, that was one thing I turned to Phil and said, well, what would one of these guys be worth for a trade? Because I think that's the exact profile that Austin should be looking for, as a guy, in that TAM center back, in their prime, kind of profile. But, I think it'd be hard to pry one of those guys away. But
I get one of those guys.
What's that? If you're looking at, $1 million, 1.5, I'd pull the trigger. It's just allocation money, right?
It's all funny money. As long as you're not spending your own money, it's always good. The one critique I have, I get he's a center back. I get he doesn't score that many goals. Did not look like he knew what to do when he scored that penalty. He did not know how to celebrate. He did like kind of a half run, half skip, half. Look, like, I'm not saying act like you've been there before. I'm saying go nuts, man. But it seemed like he was kind of in between like a cool pose and like a run back to the teammates.
He almost like slipped too or something. Didn't he kind of?
Look, like, he's going to be drinking out of the MLS Cup tonight, and we're rooms chatting about the game, or Chris at Haymaker. But you got a little more flair next time around, and I think he's a player we're going to be hearing more from. I heard from a couple of friends in Peru that were tracking his progress, that have been tuning into MLS to watch him, and actually a really good year for Peruvian central defenders. Henderson Santa Maria may win Liga MX tomorrow. Guys, I think one of the most exciting dates as well for MLS as we bring this conversation to a close for fans for the end of the year. We mentioned the trade window, we mentioned the expansion draft, but the schedule drops on Wednesday. This is much earlier, so I think fans can start to kind of plan some travel if that's something they want to do and get excited about 2022. The season is going to open earlier than it ever has. We already know the first 2 dates, but of course we're going to have all sorts of coverage on the Striker Texas, maybe even letting you know what our favorite road trips are, so you can maybe save the money, frequent flyer miles, or whatever you got. Something exciting to watch next week as well. None of this happens if you aren't Striker Texas, so make sure you subscribe. It's thestrikertexas.com. All sorts of coverage, again, usually focusing heavily on Austin FC, Houston Dynamo, but anything that happens in the state. Houston Dash have been kind of quiet in the NWSL offseason. Theo Lloyd Hughes explained why on the site this week. Also, Championship, some news in El Paso, and new about that. Anything that's happening in the state, you can check out on the Striker Texas. For Victor Riza in Houston, Phil's in festive Austin, Texas, I'm John Arnold in Dallas. We'll talk to you guys next week. Go to the site, check out what happens. We'll have all the new trade window, expansion draft, schedule, and so much more. We'll talk to you guys over there. Take care.